They say curiosity killed the cat. But in my neighborhood, curiosity nearly killed something even bigger: Karen's spotless reputation. Now, before I get into the madness that unfolded, let me set the stage. I live in what you'd call a quiet subdivision. Cookie-cutter houses lined up in perfect symmetry, driveways trimmed, lawns cut sharp like green carpet. On the surface, it looked peaceful, like something out of a brochure for suburban living. But underneath, it wasn't so perfect, because we had Karen. Karen wasn't just a neighbor, she was the HOA president. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA, you know exactly the type I'm talking about. She was the kind of person who knew every bylaw by heart and enforced them like they were commandments. She once fined a family for leaving their Christmas lights up 2 days past New Year's. Another neighbor got written up because their garden hose was coiled the wrong way. Petty, power-hungry, and always watching. That was Karen. To most people, she was untouchable. She strutted through the neighborhood in her lavender bathrobe like it was royal silk, pearls swinging from her ears, head held high. People either pretended to like her or kept their heads down to avoid trouble. But all of that was about to unravel. First, it was small things. A bill showing up late, a flyer missing, maybe junk mail that I thought the postman just didn't drop off. But over time, it started adding up. A birthday card from my sister in another state never arrived. A notice from the IRS, supposedly delivered, but my mailbox was empty. Utility bills were coming out of order, like pages torn out of a book. It wasn't just frustrating, it was unnerving. Now, I don't know if you've ever had mail disappear, but there's something about it that feels violating. That box at the end of your driveway is supposed to be secure, private, yours. And suddenly, it felt like someone had pried into my life. At first, I blamed the postal service. Maybe the mailman was sloppy. Maybe things were getting lost in the system. It happens. But the gaps were too sharp, too consistent. Something wasn't right. And the more I thought about it, the more a question gnawed at me. Was someone tampering with my mailbox on purpose? One morning, I decided I wasn't going to sit around and wonder anymore. I brewed a strong mug of coffee, pulled a chair up to the window, and just waited. The street was dead silent. The kind of silence that only exists before dawn. Porch lights glowed like faint stars. Sprinklers ticked on in the distance, and the air felt heavy, thick with that early morning stillness. Minutes crawled by. My coffee cooled in my hands. Part of me felt ridiculous, sitting there like some wannabe detective over missing letters. But another part of me knew something was about to happen. And then movement. At the edge of my driveway, I saw a shadow gliding across the pavement. At first, I thought it was a jogger or maybe a dog walker. But as the figure got closer, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a stranger. It was Karen. She was dressed exactly how you'd imagine. Lavender bathrobe tied around her waist, slippers dragging against the concrete, hair pinned back like she was on her way to a spa. Except she wasn't. She walked straight up to my mailbox with the confidence of someone who had done it before. No hesitation. No glances around. Just flipped it open like it was her own property and began rifling through my mail. I nearly choked on my coffee. There she was, the self-proclaimed guardian of neighborhood integrity. The same woman who preached rules and regulations like gospel. Stealing my mail. Piece by piece, she flipped through, pulled out a few letters, tucked them under her arm, and strolled away as casually as if she just picked up her morning paper. In that moment, every instinct in me wanted to throw open the door and confront her. To shout, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" But I stopped myself. See, if Karen was bold enough to do this once, she'd do it again. And if she was doing it to me, how many other neighbors had already been targeted? I realized if I confronted her right then, all I'd get was a screaming match. She'd deny it, twist the story, maybe even try to find me under some HOA nonsense. No, if I wanted to stop her, I needed proof. Solid proof she couldn't wriggle out of with fake smiles and pearls swinging from her ears. The very next day, we had an HOA meeting. I sat there, pretending like nothing had happened, but my mind was buzzing. When the time felt right, I casually mentioned that some of my mail had been going missing. Karen didn't even blink. She just tilted her head, gave that fake smile, and laughed. "Oh, you know how unreliable the post office can be," she said, waving her hand like it was nothing. But the way she said it, it wasn't dismissive. It was mocking, like she knew I suspected her. Like the entire thing was a game and she was winning. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a petty neighborly squabble anymore. This was bigger. Tampering with mail isn't just rude. It's not just an HOA violation. It's a federal crime under 18 U.S.C. Section 1708. And Karen, the queen of the cul-de-sac, was about to find out the hard way. I left that HOA meeting with my blood boiling and my mind racing. Karen thought she could brush me off with a laugh, thought she could keep running the neighborhood like her personal kingdom, even while breaking federal law. She had no idea what storm she had just walked into. Most people don't realize how serious mail theft actually is. Tampering with someone's mailbox isn't like taking a lawn ornament or breaking a garden gnome. It's not just bad manners. It's a violation of Title 18, Section 1708 of the United States Code. That means it's a federal offense, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and thousands in fines. The reason it's taken so seriously? Because mail isn't just paper. It's people's lives, bills, medical information, tax documents, even checks. And if someone is bold enough to steal it, odds are they're looking for more than just a greeting card. I knew Karen wasn't doing this for fun. She wanted something, maybe personal info, maybe money, whatever it was. She wasn't just poking around in my mailbox. She was playing with fire, and I was about to hand her the match. Confronting Karen directly was pointless. She'd deny it, twist it, maybe even slap me with some HOA fine for harassment. I needed someone who could hit her where it hurt. So, I made the call most people don't even know exists. I contacted the United States Postal Inspection Service. Yes, it's real. They're not some TV invention. They are the oldest federal law enforcement agency in America, created way back in the 1700s, and they have one job: protect the mail. When I explained what was happening, I half expected them to laugh. Your neighbor in a bathrobe is stealing your letters? Cute. But they didn't. Not even a smirk. Instead, they started asking detailed questions. Dates, times, what I had seen, how many letters I suspected were missing. And then the agent assigned to my case, Inspector Lopez, said something that made the hair on my neck stand up. "Sir, if what you're describing is accurate, this is a violation of Title 18, Section 1708. That's punishable by up to 5 years in federal prison. If you're willing to cooperate, we can set up a controlled delivery." A controlled delivery. It sounded like something out of a movie, and in a way it was. The inspectors explained that they would prepare a decoy envelope, completely ordinary looking from the outside. But inside, hidden carefully, would be a tiny GPS tracker. The idea was simple. Whoever took that envelope would unknowingly carry the tracker with them. The second it was moved out of my mailbox, the inspectors would know. Karen wouldn't just be caught, maybe stealing mail. She'd be caught in a federal trap. I didn't hesitate. "I'm in," I told them. The night before the sting, I barely slept. My mind kept spinning. What if Karen noticed the inspectors? What if she got suspicious? What if she somehow turned it around on me? By morning, I was wired on coffee and nerves. I slipped the bait letter into my mailbox just like any other piece of mail. On the outside, it looked boring, just another white envelope, sealed tight. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would raise suspicion. Across the street, a nondescript sedan sat parked, windows tinted. Inside, Inspector Lopez and his partner were waiting, radios ready. I felt like I was living in the middle of a crime drama. The minutes dragged on like hours. Every sound made me jump. The squeal of a car's brakes, the rustle of a newspaper hitting a porch, even a dog barking down the block. My hands gripped my coffee mug so tight I thought it might shatter. And then, there she was, the lavender bathrobe, the shuffling slippers, the smug, casual strut of someone who thought they were invisible. Karen. She walked straight down the street, head high, like she was out for a morning stroll. But she wasn't waving to neighbors or admiring lawns. Her eyes were locked on one thing: my mailbox. Karen didn't hesitate. She walked right up, flipped the lid, reached inside, and pulled out the decoy letter. Like clockwork, she tucked it under her arm and strolled away, as if she had just picked up her morning newspaper. No rush, no panic, just pure arrogance. That's when Inspector Lopez's radio crackled. Trackers moving. Subject heading northbound. The sedan across the street eased forward, keeping a safe distance as it tailed her. My heart pounded in my chest. I stood frozen at the window, barely breathing. Karen had no clue. She thought she was walking home with another easy score. But this time, she wasn't stealing from me. She was stealing from the United States government. And that's a game you don't win. Karen had no idea she just walked straight into a federal trap. To her, it was just another morning stroll. Another mailbox she controlled under her invisible crown as HOA president. But the second that decoy letter slipped into her bathrobe pocket, the rules of the game changed. This wasn't neighborhood drama anymore. This was federal jurisdiction. And the United States government does not play around. By the time Karen reached her house, the inspectors already had everything in motion. The GPS tracker showed her entering her home with the stolen envelope. Inside the sedan across the street, Lopez's partner adjusted his radio and spoke calmly. Package is stationary. Signal strong. Waiting for tamper confirmation. Those next few minutes were the longest of my life. I stood at my window, heart hammering, staring at Karen's house like it might burst into flames. My mind was racing. What if she didn't open the letter right away? What if she got suspicious? Then suddenly the radio crackled again. Tamper confirmed. Envelope opened. That was it. The green light. Lopez gave me a nod before stepping out of the sedan. Within seconds, two other unmarked cars rolled quietly down the street, stopping near Karen's driveway. Then came the unmistakable flash of red and blue lights. Karen's front door swung open. She stepped onto the porch, clutching the decoy envelope like it was a winning lottery ticket. For a split second, she even looked smug, like she'd gotten away with it again. But then she saw Lopez, badge out, voice firm. Ma'am, you are under arrest for theft of United States mail. A violation of Title 18, Section 1708. Please place your hands where I can see them. Karen froze. The color drained from her face. What? No, this is a mistake. I'm the HOA president. I have authority here. Lopez didn't flinch. Authority doesn't extend to stealing federal property. Turn around. Asterisk. By now, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. Curtains twitched. Doors cracked open. Within moments, half the cul-de-sac had drifted outside, phones out, recording the scene. There was Karen, queen of the HOA, standing on her own porch in a bathrobe and slippers, surrounded by federal inspectors and local police. The same woman who had written fines for trash cans, lectured about lawn heights, and handed out violation slips like candy, now standing with her wrists in steel. The look on her face wasn't embarrassment. It wasn't even shame. It was pure disbelief. For years, she had bullied and intimidated her neighbors, bending rules to suit herself. She truly believed she was untouchable. But not today. Lopez read her rights slowly, clearly, each word echoing down the street. Karen tried to sputter excuses, claims that she was protecting the neighborhood, or just holding mail for safekeeping. But nobody was buying it. Neighbors whispered. Some shook their heads. Others honestly smirked. Phones kept recording. And in that moment, every ounce of power Karen thought she had evaporated. She was no longer the HOA president. She was no longer feared. She was just another criminal in cuffs, being walked to the back of a federal vehicle. Karen's arrest sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. For days, it was all anyone could talk about. The videos spread like wildfire in group chats. The board held an emergency meeting and voted her out unanimously. The woman who once strutted through the streets with her pearls and robe like royalty was now nothing more than a cautionary tale. Within weeks, federal charges were filed. Multiple counts of mail theft. The HOA scrambled to distance themselves, claiming they had no knowledge of her actions. And the neighbors? They weren't afraid anymore. The woman who once ruled through intimidation now lived under the shadow of a federal indictment. As for me, I didn't even care about the stolen letters anymore. The missing birthday card, the IRS form, the utility bills, none of it mattered. What mattered was the principle. That justice, real justice, had finally shown up on our street. Because here's the truth. When you mess with someone's mailbox, you're not just playing petty neighborhood games. You're crossing into federal territory. And once the feds get involved, there's no HOA bylaw, no smug smile, no string of pearls that can save you. So, if you're ever tempted to peek into someone else's mailbox, remember this story. Remember Karen, standing on her porch in handcuffs while her neighbors filmed. Because curiosity didn't just kill the cat. In my neighborhood, it destroyed a queen.